There's a night when I came in so drunk I could not see. I got tangled up in the old door and that fell flat as I could be. I had me a little old bottle of rum and I didn't have any more.
Welcome to Wasted Culture. I'm Liam.
And I'm Sam.
And today we're not wearing any pants.
Well, define pants.
No, I will not.
That's good.
Today's discussion is brought to you by the Little Penguin Red Wine. It's cheap, it's drinkable, it's Little Penguin.
Yeah, no, this stuff is actually really great. I'm really excited about it.
I think it tastes better now that it's been open for a few days. It was kind of harsh the first.
Are you sure you're not a connoisseur guy now?
I'm not a connoisseur guy.
So since our last cast, just a little update on your hosts here. Liam has become a wine guy. Now, what is a wine guy, you might ask? A wine guy is a guy who drinks wine and will not let you not know that he drinks wine.
You only know that I've been doing this because I keep bringing wine to parties.
Yeah. That's what a wine guy does. He's the guy that brings wine to parties.
Well, do you know why I keep bringing wine to parties?
Because people like wine at parties?
Because I bring a $15 bottle of whiskey to share at a party, and a $40 bottle of whiskey for myself to drink.
Yeah, and people always drink the better one.
And the $15 bottle of whiskey gets left, even though it's sometimes arguably a better whiskey.
I have rarely had whiskeys that taste like significantly different from each other.
Well, that's just because you're not a connoisseur.
That's true. I'm not a whiskey guy. I'm a big water guy.
I'm definitely a whiskey guy. Yeah, Sammy, on the other hand, has become a water guy. I'm also kind of a water guy, but my water bottle is smaller than his.
Yeah, I need to compensate with water bottles, actually.
How is it that we always keep arguing about whose is smaller?
We don't want to get into that.
So, Bigfoot!
Alright, Bigfoot, and by Bigfoot, we do mean some kind of hominid-like features of an ape, sighted, cryptic monster, and we're keeping it to the American continent.
Well, let's just real briefly talk about worldwide. There are a lot of things that I see described as or listed in lists of Bigfoot that are definitely not even closely related. The Dogman, Michigan, and the American Midwest Dogman, and comes to mind, I guess to a lesser extent, the wild men of various European legends.
Yeah,
those are some kind of humanoid creature, but I don't believe that that's the same as a hominid. Now, on the other hand, worldwide, you have the Yeti from the Himalayas, which is snowy Bigfoot. You've got Orang Pendek from Indonesia, which is tiny Bigfoot.
Which is weird, because then it would be Littlefoot, which sounds like a weirdly appropriative name somebody gave themselves when they're 11 and got a weird Native American stereotype costume for Halloween.
I have no idea where you're going with that, but it can't be Littlefoot, because then a group of them would have to be Little Feet, and then the band would sue.
Oh, that's true.
The shitty shit.
Ooh, controversial opinion. Best band ever? The Danimals.
I have no idea who that is.
So you know the Animals?
Yeah.
They're a weird cover band that only plays in bars in Idaho.
Do they wear kids' animal costumes?
Well, they do now, because I was just making it up as I went along. But to not digress further from Bigfoot, so we're keeping it to the North American, ape-like hominid.
Hold on. I did have one more thought. Is just you see Bigfoot-like creatures on pretty much every single continent.
Right.
And going back thousands of years, depending on how stretchy you want to get with what you call a Bigfoot. I would say that, oh god, what was this? Erdkandu? Solomon's buddy
Oh, yeah.
in Gilgamesh's Animal Man buddy.
Yeah, and Enkidu. Yeah.
The
Epic of Gilgamesh.
That thought came to me a few weeks ago while we were first talking about doing this, and
right, this kind of wilderness-based, human-like but not quite human concept stretches back
and
thousands of years.
Enkidu?
Enkidu.
Enkidu is a little more, sapient, I guess.
He's more on the human side.
He's more personable than a lot of Bigfoot descriptions. But there are definitely theories about Bigfoot being very intelligent and capable of human speech and human conversations and so forth. But it's just there's clearly there is something in the human mind. Either there is something out there, or there is something in the human mind that makes us see hairy ape men.
I mean, to be perfectly frank with you, every time I take a shower, I see a hairy ape man.
Ha. Ha ha.
Thank you. I actually practiced that one in front of the mirror this morning. I was really getting my confidence up with it. But the Sasquatch, especially in American culture, North American culture, which we mean predominantly, sometimes there is like a little bit in Central American, North American, Mexican, Salvadoran, Honduran, Guatemalan culture. They have a little bit of that, but the most prominent idea as a really cultural phenomenon tends to be more in Canada and the United States. Which is where we get some of the most outlandish, and frankly, some things that are just gorgeous as a story in and of itself, such as the woman who married Bigfoot.
Oh, yes. Okay. So, being our conspiracy man, Sammy, share with us this wonderful story that you found.
Oh, right.
Any of those things are making noise.
Yeah, they're clinking around. All right, that was Liam's beard braiding tools that we just took off the table.
I have no idea how clearly they came through. I'm really glad the mics are not on the table anymore.
Yeah, no, that's probably good. Okay, so, which by the way, this comes out of...
Where does this come out of?
This comes out of Washington State.
Oh, I meant who quote unquote reported this.
Okay, well, not to get into what is and is not accurate reporting, suffice it to say that The Hollywood Gossip is the very esteemed editorial that I'm getting this information from. So that's my source there, The Hollywood Gossip. You can look them up online, hollywoodgossip.com.
The word gossip just tells you how rock solid their reporting
I've
is.
never heard anything introduced as gossip that I didn't believe.
Yeah, I've noticed.
Because when it's gossip, you're like, I know somebody had sex with somebody. And then we come full circle.
So much like this lady said to Bigfoot, lay it on me.
So as we're alluding to, the article is entitled, Woman Claims to be in Sexual Relationship with Bigfoot, quote, trying for a baby with Sasquatch. This woman named Nancy Hoggart, a resident of Washington State, claims to be essentially common law married to Bigfoot. If you have time, it takes 5 minutes. Go look at the argument.
Let's just read it real quick.
All right,
lay it on us.
I want to summarize a little bit that she lives in a more rural area of Washington State, as opposed to the very city-like parts of Washington State, which is...
Dude, for all I know, it's just fucking Seattle and then logging forests as much as far as the eye can see.
Well, I think that's what it basically is. But she began as a marijuana farmer. Yes, it's beautiful. She was a marijuana farmer when marijuana was still legal in Washington State, and then also claims that her primary form of income, growing illegal marijuana, has now been taken out by the by the legal marijuana business over there. So that's just her economic background, which is important for the story to just set the scene. She claims she was tending to her crop when she saw a creature that she very clearly was able to identify as Sasquatch, And this is a warning, this will get very graphic, this story. I won't get into too much graphic detail, but she claims that she went to go shoot at him, as one does when they see a Sasquatch in their weed garden, but then saw that he had an erection, and then they proceeded to have sex in a crop of pot.
Because that's what you do when you see a giant strange man standing in your garden with a boner. Fuck him.
Yeah, fuck him.
Don't shoot him like you were planning to do. You see that boner, you just drop the gun, drop to your knees, and start, you know what, let's just move on.
Well, she says, and I quote from the article, "I hadn't gotten any in a while, and well, from there, it somehow turned into an adult movie. I don't know if he started it or I did." So, as we can tell, this woman is very stable, psychologically. But Nancy, and, you know, her husband have had a strained relationship over time, because she claims he has a hard time with speaking English. He's essentially nonverbal. He can somewhat pronounce her name, but it's very...
Her husband, the Sasquatch.
Yes, her husband, the Sasquatch. You know, it really doesn't take to her marital status, but suffice it to say, whatever was happening with anyone before was completely put to the side by Bigfoot.
Obviously.
Which also sounds like
you
a
know
weird...
what they say, when you got a big foot.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I don't even want to think about it, but... She also says he's so sweet and caring and brings me flowers and mushrooms and holds me while we stargaze. I would love to know about the mushrooms.
I think the mushrooms might be the explanation.
It's an explanation for it. She's definitely got... I hear Washington State, you know. Far be it from me to accuse anyone in Washington for doing any sorts of illegal drugs.
Well, I mean, I'm not an expert on the marijuanas the way I am on tobacco, but I don't believe that you can get green marijuana sickness and get high from handling the pot. I might be wrong about that. I don't know. I've never even smoked a pot.
Interesting fact, though, she gave him a name other than Bigfoot. She named him John.
Okay, sure. Why not?
I mean, you know, which frankly seems a little lazy to me, because you had one opportunity with this, and you named him the most boring-ass name.
You know what? Maybe she's been pining after a dude named John for years. Maybe she just likes the name John. Maybe he gives off a real John vibe.
I can see that. We when we were looking up, photographs of Bigfoot, blurry and not blurry, more blurry than not, I was kind of getting like, oh, you know, he looks like a John to me.
I was not, but I'm not gonna doubt you.
What name were you picking up from him?
I don't know.
Squatchy? What do you want?
I mean, the ones I don't really remember the ones we were looking at a few weeks ago. I remember, oh God, what was it? There was some Bigfoot documentary that I was watching.
Oh God, we got
with the
lost
last couple
in
of
it.
days. No, not that one.
Oh, that one.
There was
beautiful.
one that I was watching this morning that was like Finding Bigfoot or something like that, and the host claimed to have close, clear video pictures of Bigfoot, and one of them looked like a straight up Muppet, straight up like a Muppet. Let me see if I can find it. I'm going to say it's Discovering Bigfoot.
So, oh, that is a bit.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, that's not even the one, but this is the one that I was.
Oh, I love it.
Of.
I love it. That is a Muppet, but that's more like that's a Muppet. That guy looks like he was in a pot farm. To be honest with you,
just to describe to everybody what Sammy and I are looking at right now. If you do a Google for Discovering Bigfoot pictures, it's like the second image that comes up.
Think Planet of the Apes, but with like a sweet goatee.
Well, no. Think of like the most fucked up child's toy stuffed monkey.
Oh my God! It does look a little creepy stuffed monkey child's toy.
It's got a fairly flat tan face that looks like stretched or scratched felt. Like, I don't know if you ever made felt masks. in art class when you were
No,
in
I didn't
school?
make felt masks in art class. What is that? What is a felt mask?
That's exactly what it sounds like. It's
Just a mask made out of felt?
Well, yeah, you
That
take it
sounds
over
like
a mold and you stretch it and you.
No, I don't want to do that at all.
But
I was happy they didn't do that in art class in school.
Anyway, black.
My art classes gave us chalk and just said, whoever survives wins, and you carve it underneath the table into a point, kill each other.
Right.
I survived grade school.
Okay.
That's
anyway,
right, Montgomery County Public Schools failed me. I'm
Black,
calling them out.
black beady eyes. The nose just kind of looks like somebody stretched felt over a person's nose and just glued it there. And then there's an area that's supposed to be kind of like the mouth. It looks like there's fur shaved away there. And honestly, just looks like they cut a hole in the felt and you've got somebody's mouth, right underneath it, maybe attached with spirit gum to the felt.
But, check out his, pencil-thin mustache. He has full monkey-like
See, I don't
hair
think...
all over the body.
Right, but I don't think that's a mustache. I think that's like a ridge of fur, or what I think is felt, or, fabric or whatever it is.
Oh, you mean, his face is coming out under there? Those are the guy's lips under there.
Exactly. Yeah, you see how there's, the clear ridge
I'm
all the
seeing
way
it now.
around?
So,
But that also makes it look very Muppet-like. It looks like it's got a mouth flap.
So I want to allure kind of to what... Give us, the traditional, narrative of Bigfoot. Give us the traditional, Pacific Northwest Bigfoot idea.
Okay, so that is what a lot of videos that I've looked at have described as a Patty-style Bigfoot, named after the Wright-Patterson... Good lord, not Wright-Patterson, that's an Air Force base. Patterson-Gimlin Bigfoot film,
right,
which is the famous video.
That one with the blurry shot of him, looking back like a catwalk.
Yeah, it shows
yeah.
a Bigfoot. Many people say that it's a female Bigfoot and that it's got clearly visible breasts. I have never seen that, and I think that says more about the person describing the video.
I often when I'm looking for Bigfoot, the first thing I'm thinking of is Bigfoot got some tits or what? What's going on here?
Where are the titties?
Yeah, where are the titties with Bigfoot? That's my main concern. It's not holy God, this is a half man, half monkey
it's
creature.
Interesting.
This is a titty monster.
Well, it's interesting
literally
because I've seen a couple of different descriptions of Bigfoot where it specifically talks about the Bigfoot having breasts. But you never hear anyone talking about Bigfoot walking along with his giant schlong just swinging in between his legs as he takes his steps.
Well, listen, when you're out there in the wilderness, you start to see what you want to see. I want to meet the person, though, that's getting a little bit yeah, she was gorgeous. Those curves. Bigfoot curves. Bigfoot, big breasts. That's what I'm into.
Yeah, hey, obviously there's one woman who's into it.
Evidently. That's strange, because she did mention a penis, but I wonder if he also had breasts.
Well, if it doesn't mention it in specific, then... Because let's face it.
That's true.
The Hollywood gossip would not mention something like that.
That's true. They would be all over the tits.
It's probably... I'm not willing to go to their webpage to look, but I would not be surprised if tits is basically the point of every other story that they publish. Just tits and Bigfoot. That's what the Hollywood...
It's probably tits, Bigfoot, and I'm surprised that Kim Kardashian wasn't mentioned in...
Well, not in that article, but that's what the Hollywood gossip newspaper probably is. Tits, Bigfoot, Kim Kardashian in that order.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So, while I was browsing around, looking on the quote-unquote more scientific end of the Bigfoot spectrum,
yes.
I actually did find something that was fairly interesting. A man named Joshua Stevens, who is a data analyst and graphic designer, he took reports from the Bigfoot Research Organization's, Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization.
Very professional. Lordy. On their website, you can even get a sweatshirt that has their logo on it, which is that's how you know they're legit.
See that, yeah. No, but anyway, so this man took all the sightings that Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization had from 1921 to 2013,
sure,
and he laid them out on a map of the United States to show population density, where the sightings were,
Right.
sightings over time, density of sightings by year, and then also amount of sightings compared to population density. So,
Which is a really interesting map, and it's definitely worth checking out and definitely looking for.
yeah, again, Google Joshua Stevens Squatch Watch map, and it'll pop up.
By the way, Squatch Watch, great name for an indie band.
Absolutely. There are a couple of things that seemed kind of interesting to me while I was looking at this map this morning. So I took it and I overlaid it on a Google Earth image of North America. And when we should clarify, these reports cover the continental United States and northern Canada. So that portion of North America, it really doesn't show any South American sightings.
Right.
I do believe that if you look at the BFRO's website now, it does list.
Point it out.
Well, it lists like a couple of sightings on Baja California, which you can. I think there is one.
There's
or two
one,
on
yeah,
there.
on the very border of Baja and United States, California.
But it shows so comparing this to a topological map of the United States and two population density maps of the United States shows a couple of things that are fairly interesting. One is that you have you've got a hot spot in the Pacific Northwest,
right?
Which makes sense because that's the
theoretical origin of like Bigfoot.
Well, origin, it's the place where the stories first started coming from and where it first got big.
Which, by the way, stories first start coming. In the contemporary United States, these stories started coming well into like the late 18th century, early 19th century.
Well, a lot of the First Nations tribes have Bigfoot stories. They have the Big Brothers, the Old Men of the Forest,
right?
Various different names for them. I'll say one that gets thrown around a lot, that gets listed in kind of the list of Native American Bigfoots, is the Wendigo. And
I've heard of that.
That does not match to what I know of the Wendigo.
I thought it was isn't it like a forest spirit or something? I hope I'm not offending anybody because it could be completely wrong.
So I do think that there are multiple different types of Wendigo, so that may be what it is. But the version that I'm familiar with is, I believe, Algonquin. And it is kind of a cannibalistic spirit that will infest people who are very hungry or have been sinful, or more specifically, have committed cannibalism.
I think they had a Scooby-Doo episode where they tried to find it.
Fucking really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, they had the Chupacabra, a Scooby-Doo movie.
Well, I know they had the Wendigo. There was a video game, Last Till Dawn or Dead by Dawn.
Dead by Dawn.
Something like
Something
Dead
like
by
that.
Daylight.
Dawn by Daylight.
Yeah, it was like
Dead by Dawn. I
have no
Dawn
idea.
died at daylight.
Who knows? But it was a quick time event horror game. And the monsters there were Wendigos. I have not played it. I've seen some playthroughs of it. That seems to be kind of like a werewolfish, they bite you, you become a Wendigo kind of deal.
Well, we don't even want to get into the whole werewolf thing.
Well, from what I know, it's pretty much more like you bite someone else and you become a Wendigo.
So, what I would like to point out about this map, we still haven't pulled up the map, is that up to where Alaska is, it kind of has this speck, sighting trail down that leads down into, central and southern Canada, and then leads down and spurs out. It actually really mimics the pattern of movement of human population of North America.
That's kind of my other big takeaway from it, besides the fact that, so like I was saying,
all this sparred area, this is all desert right here. It has Nevada.
So you've
desert.
You've got a fairly even distribution
right.
across all of the areas where there are green areas. There is kind of weirdly this one area in northern Louisiana, eastern or western Mississippi, I believe that is, maybe southern Alabama, southwestern Alabama. And that's an interesting spot because that actually breaks the rules. So the two rules that I saw while covering this is, one, you've got even distribution all across everywhere where there's green areas in the United States.
Right.
The other thing that I take away is, just like you were saying, if you look at it over a population density map of North America, it matches up pretty damn close. Yeah. Like the clusters up here in the Great Lakes region, I guess, that's Detroit,
right,
Chicago.
With that, climate and that, that's over here down in Maryland where we are, it's a little bit less. I mean, there's still some, but like you have eastern Maryland and Delaware where there's nothing, but that's all marshland over there.
Now, again, like I was saying, this one region along the Mississippi River, leaving Louisiana, coming up into Mississippi, that didn't seem to be a particularly sparsely populated area.
Right.
Even when you look at actually, this is weird because when you look at their little population density map compared to sightings here, it shows that dead area as being the deep purple, squatches galore.
Which, by the way, I love. You gotta love the terms thrown around on the key to the.
So I do have to say, I don't think that Mr. Stevens took this super seriously.
No, of course, but I mean, he's clearly a guy that specializes in making maps. He wanted to do one of this, and I think it's a good job. I just love.
Yeah, not that I'm really in any position to judge his work,
to criticize
on
the
its own merits. Well, it's not even a cartography thing; it's a data analysis thing. It's just not something I'm the best at. But this seems to be a pretty good map. Like I said, the other takeaways I have from it, aside from its matching population density and the even distribution across all the green areas of the United States, with some clusters in the Pacific Northwest, kind of the Detroit, Michigan area, down in the Florida Everglades region in particular, was that, one, there are a lot fewer sightings than I expected. So this stops at 2012, I believe, so it's 2013, so there's 5 years of sightings that are not on here.
A crucial 5 years, because I've seen some stuff in the last couple of years that had some outlandish crap, which is amazing.
Well, just the number of sightings he gives off of the BFRO research site, which, again, I don't know a whole lot about this organization, the BFRO. I did spend a little bit of time looking at it. I didn't find any of this until this morning.
Yeah, as opposed
so
to
I
the
wasn't
very
able to.
As opposed to the very serious. We need to weed out the very serious Bigfoot hunters from the very relaxed and lazy Bigfoot hunters.
Well, okay, here's my point. They call themselves like the one organization that is doing scientific study on Bigfoot, and I'm willing to believe that, because I love these things, but to me, they're stories that I hope somebody will prove true, but I'm not going to put a whole lot of stock in until somebody does come up with real, concrete scientific proof. Which
I don't blame you. I love the aspect of. I love the aspect of a some kind of monkey, like some hominid that just is roaming around. Which really brings me to my favorite theory of the Sasquatch.
Well, hold on. I don't want to get. I want to not get too sidetracked. I just want to finish up the first set of thoughts before we move on.
Yeah, totally.
So it only gives 3,313 reports for 92 years. I honestly expected that number to be a lot higher. Now, I did check BFRO's website, and I couldn't find anywhere where they gave an actual total number of reported sightings. And even now in 2018, that I counted 5,503 reports for North America. So that's another 2,200, give or take, 2,190 over 5 years.
Do you think a lot of these reports, are people who look up like some Bigfoot stuff and end up with the same kind of ideas?
That was
or do you think it's like totally isolated? Like, how'd this get here?
That was the other thing that interested me, is if you look at the reported sightings by year, you do see a couple of sightings here in the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s. 1951 is when the first Bigfoot footprint is found and the name shows up. The late 50s, like 1958, according to this, is when Bigfoot hunter culture emerges.
I would love, by the way, Bigfoot hunter culture is my new favorite term of the week.
Yeah, it's
I'm going to use it 30 times today.
Yeah, you just scrape a little Bigfoot hunter culture and grow them in the lab.
I was just thinking that they get their own culture. Can you imagine if we stuck them all on an island, all the Bigfoot hunters? Those would be some wacky guys.
Lauren Coleman seems like he can handle himself. 70-year-old man.
You know what would be great? I really want Steve Irwin to come back to life, to find Bigfoot. Just like, because can you imagine Steve Irwin with like a sleeping Bigfoot? He'd be like, we found the North American Bigfoot. I'm gonna poke him with a stick.
That's Gabriel Iglesias' version of Steve Irwin.
I know, but that's...
Real Steve Irwin was straight up, I'm gonna just grab it.
Yeah, I'll just grab it. We're gonna see what happens.
Well, he knew what would happen. That was his charm. He just didn't give a fuck.
Well, he wanted to show the audience. Well, listen, I don't want to get into my whole beliefs about Steve Irwin, because I have many Steve Irwin opinions.
Listen, I love Steve Irwin. I recognize that from an actual conservation standpoint,
flipping some stuff around is maybe not the... Going up to an endangered species and going like, let me just throw it across the yard.
But listen, he taught a love of nature. He taught a love of nature and a love of wildlife, and...
You could argue the same for Bigfoot hunters.
Well, yes, but Steve Irwin was talking about real wildlife that was observable and actually in danger, as opposed to possibly fictional, probably fictional, possibly fictional, unverified, and maybe in danger or extinct. That's one of the theories. Apparently Mount St. Helens wasn't real nice, wasn't real good for the Bigfoot population.
God, I loved that. I loved that whole thing with the documentary. This whole idea. Well, we watched one documentary about a week ago. It was perfect. It was amazing because they were like there was this guy narrating that there was so many things wrong with this documentary, but there was guy
report what happened. People, I'm sure they'll be able to figure out the issues with this on their own.
Fair enough, but one man was saying that the military came up and told him, not to tell anybody about this, and when he kind of questioned why, they said, "Do you really want these species to be, threatened by outside people or something to the result of that?"
Which is obvious bullshit, because when has the United States government ever cared about driving species into extinction?
Right. That's how I know that this guy was lying, because I was like, if the United States government found a single thing that they would... But this guy starts narrating how one guy, communicated to the Bigfoot in, a Bigfoot language. Like, the government had people who came out and were like, "Can you come speak to Bigfoot?"
Yeah, he really...
Oh, yes, I majored in that in grad school.
He went back and forth between the Bigfoot being kind of just animals, if relatively smart animals, to being, kind of a lost tribe with their own language.
A lost tribe of humans?
Or even being didn't it kind of imply that they were psychic at one point?
He implied a lot of things, and it was all over the place.
I do know that that's one that I've come across a couple of times, is, on the wackier Bigfoot theories include things like Bigfoot being a lost tribe of Israel kind of human.
Bigfoot being a lost tribe of Israel makes a lot of sense.
There was also one theory that Bigfoot was the lost tribe of Israel, so we won't, put too much stock into any of these theories.
I love that. I have a buddy I used to have a buddy who was Israeli. He kind of turned into a creep.
Listen, no offense to the First Nations people, and lots of offense to the Church of the Latter-day Saints, but that makes at least as much sense as Jesus, turning a hard right on his way up to heaven. Well, actually, a lot of Christians believe that Jesus took a hard right on his way up to heaven. But ended up, Jesus ending up in America. Hey,
Can't say that.
I'm leaving that one in.
Oh my god.
Well, I guess it depends on how much I had to drink once I do the editing.
I love the Beringian theory, though. The Beringian theory was beautiful. That was the whole, and I did a little more research into it. So, like we mentioned earlier, the Yeti is this kind of it's almost identical to the Bigfoot. It's usually white though, and it's this whole hominid. There's 1,000 stories about it. Primarily in the Himalayas and different countries that have populations in the Himalayan mountain range. So Nepal, northern India, southwestern China, southwestern Tibet, and it's this belief that with humans, which the Beringian theory of human expansion is completely proven, that humans crossed the ice bridge
the Bering
Strait.
Oh, okay.
And essentially walked down through what's now Alaska, walked down to during the Western. That's why I mentioned the map earlier follows that same pattern of how human population went there.
So the Bering theory is basically the theory that Bigfoot's walked over on the Bering Strait.
It was Bigfoot's walked over
Gigantopithecus, basically.
Gigantopithecus is what they call it. It walks over with people on the Bering Strait, but then at the same time bred with them, which comes from this idea that Gigantopithecus was this giant...
That's a new one.
Bred with humans along the way. And we ended up watching a documentary that had a whole long idea...
Did we?
About... Yeah, we watched it. You were a little blasted at that point, but there was a whole sexual belief about Bigfoot.
In fairness, I needed to get pretty blasted to get after the 4th or 5th Bigfoot documentary.
Oh yeah, no, it was, but I was having a great time. I was because it goes so deep.
Oh, I was having a great
so
time
deep.
Too. It's just I can only suspend I can only do suspension of disbelief for so long.
So there was this idea of Gigantopithecus.
Why
we
does
mentioned.
My house smell like cat food all of a sudden?
Probably feeding the cat.
They're making crab cakes.
Oh shit! Crab cakes are delicious. Gigantopithecus is this idea that there was a giant hominid that was the same way Neanderthals were just another hominid, but there was a huge one that also crossed, and while it crossed the Bering Strait with Homo sapiens and early humans from Asia to North America, it bred with them and created modern Sasquatch.
Oh, okay. So
that's the whole theory.
I just want to clarify. Gigantopithecus was a real proven hominid. That is a real creature.
No, they did find a real creature.
The theory is...
The Gigantopithecus theory of Sasquatch.
Okay, so the one that I was familiar with was essentially that Gigantopithecus had crossed the Bering Strait, and that Bigfoot was Gigantopithecus, or, various branched out descendants of it. I was not familiar with the theory that Gigantopithecus had crossbred with humans to create the modern Sasquatch.
It was on the way to create the modern Sasquatch, which is weird because, the two theories, this is what doesn't make sense to me about the first one. I can understand the breeding because I've been to the Deep South. I know humans will fuck animals. I've seen it. I haven't seen it in person, but I've seen guys in the South that I'm like, oh, he's definitely fucking animals.
So, wait. Christians in America think that Jesus was way more right-wing than he was, is a controversial speech that I shouldn't leave in, but people in the South fuck animals is not?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Oh, man. But I loved it. I loved this theory. I looked it up. I went so deep with it. I loved the Gigantopithecus crossbreeding with humans. It was great because then the other idea was that they didn't crossbreed. Gigantopithecus just tiptoed behind humans in some cartoonish way across the Bering Strait.
And that's the theory
because we didn't find any bones of that
right
along the way, even though we found we being, actual archaeologists.
So just to polish off the Stevens map and move on from it. Looking at, because that's what we were talking about at some point, the the reported sightings by year. If you look at it, you have this very gradual uptick until the late 60s, which is when the Patterson-Gimlin film comes out. And I got some things to say and talk about the Patterson-Gimlin film, but we'll move on. I'll summarize it right now. But you see a pretty big uptick starting to show up here in the 70s. There were a lot of Bigfoot-based B, C, D, and Z movies that showed up in the 70s.
Absolutely.
Bigfoot-based movies. They're all terrible, but lots of them are fun, and a lot of there was some density to them. And then you see a huge explosion in the number of sightings in the 90s through the mid-2000s as the internet becomes ubiquitous.
Well, that's the beauty of the internet, though, is some psycho thinks he's alone, but then his ideas make a lot more sense to him when he finds another psycho online that agrees.
Right, but just...
Stop taking toys away from me. William's been taking everything. There's been nail trimmers on the table. There's been so many things on the table.
Where did the
I
nail
love to fidget. I don't know where they came from, but stop taking fucking things away from me. I want toys.
We set up this table. The nail clipper could not possibly have been on this table.
I'm looking across. I don't know where it came from. Don't ask me where it came from. I have no idea where it came from. It was there, and I'm playing with it. Give it back to me.
You're going digging in my bedroom for toys and scraping them across the table, and I don't even have headphones or a monitor, so I have no idea if the mic's picking it up.
But there is some kind of consensus about Bigfoot, and the whole... talk to me about the Patterson
I'm going to
film.
stop you right there. There is no consensus about Bigfoot.
There's a general Northwest Bigfoot. I hate that I'm arguing Bigfoot. I hate arguing Bigfoot because I know I sound like the most psycho person, and I probably am right now.
There are between 4, 10, and 15 different distinct variations of Bigfoot in North America.
Now it's time for the hot button thing. Every time Liam has a number, we challenge Liam to name every single one up to that number in under 10 seconds. Go.
That's not
10.
Happening. That's not
9.
Happening. There's
8,
the patty type,
7,
type 2, type 3,
7,
type 4, type
6.
5.
I hate that
fucking... Well, no, because a lot of them don't have names, it seems like. So the basic split into 4 that I've seen the most commonly, which I think comes from BFRO. I don't know, maybe it just comes from some jackass. But that's that one that we saw over and over again, where it's just a picture of 4 Bigfoots put next to each other. One of them was distinctly Neanderthal looking.
Right. There was the Neanderthal. There was the one that was supposed to be like most closely like a
and roughly,
orangutan.
Roughly speaking, there is the first type 1, which is kind of the patty type, and that is, I think, what you're talking about, the classic shy, docile Pacific Northwestern Bigfoot.
Right. The jerky commercial Bigfoot.
There is type 2 Bigfoot, which seems to be kind of the more aggressive. Still very human, but slightly more animalistic, more ape-like Bigfoot. There is a third Bigfoot, which basically seems to be almost like a baboon Bigfoot.
Yeah, the one with like the weirdly long arms.
Long
and, like, has
arms,
the,
snout, often aggressive, meat-eating. And then the fourth type was, I think, a much more like humanistic or much more human throwback version.
Right. It was like supposed to be like broke off from
kind of a Neanderthal,
like
surviving
Neanderthal surviving,
but taller, I think, usually.
I just love the way they deal with, some of the lack of anthropological findings, which is, you have these people who are like, well, the reason we haven't found any bones, is because their bones disintegrate much faster.
Well, I don't know about that. So, I mean, I have to say, I am, with any cryptid story, with any UFO story, with any of these fields, these kind of paranormal, parapsychology fields, at least 3/4 of them, if not the full 99%, are probably, if not absolutely, bullcrap.
I absolutely think it's based in some kind of reality.
There's some reality to it, whether it's, whether there actually is some human hominid. But my point is, there are places in the United States where, even in the modern day, people and things just vanish. There are people that have just gone missing and we've never found them. Hikers who have gone off into the woods in North America, but particularly in the Pacific Northwest and in northern Canada, and they've just vanished. Northern Canada.
Northern Canada?
The area I can where tell you there are no people.
I can tell you exactly why people are going missing in northern Canada. It's fucking cold up there. It's ridiculous.
Fucking cold. It's wilderness. There's not a whole lot of people living there. But that's kind of my point, is that there are still places in the United States that are remote and wilderness and are, places where people disappear. And I think that in and of itself is kind of an underpinning for Bigfoot and why there continue to be stories and sighting about Bigfoot, why there always have been and always will be, is that people want there to be something out there. They want there to be something unknown in the wilderness.
I mean, human curiosity is always like that. Of course we want something to be out there. I want there so badly to be aliens. Frankly, I want there to be Star Wars happening in a galaxy far away right now. And I do not blame the people who dedicate their time to finding Bigfoot. I blame them a little bit. Well, I don't.
But also, here's the point. So you and I grew up in the woods.
Right. I mean,
there are very few places. There are very few places in the wooded areas where you and I grew up in and around where you can stand and not see a house from where you're standing, let alone hear the sounds of a highway or construction somewhere, or just people, just hear the sounds of civilization. But even in those tiny strips of, frankly, largely artificial forest and woodland, it's still so easy to believe and make yourself think that there's something out there.
Each and every one of these cryptids, of the aliens, it's all people just trying to find answers to things.
Well,
and it's...
There are also people who are looking for attention.
There are people who... Listen, I do not want to claim that the woman who's sleeping with Bigfoot is looking for attention.
So speaking of people looking for attention, the Patterson-Gimlin film you asked about.
I love that film so much. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It's definitely not somebody in a monkey suit. Well, it's 100% not that. And
we're gonna watch it right now.
Yeah, put it on.
I mean, we're not gonna catch any audio or anything, but let's just pull that shit up right here, right now, on YouTube, and let's watch it because it's been a little while.
The Monster Quest episode, that was the crazy one. I loved when they had the guy with hypertrichosis, the so-called werewolf syndrome. That was great. They were like, is he Bigfoot secretly?
Danny of Mexico?
Right. They were like, is this really what people thought was Bigfoot? And then the announcer came over and was like, no, it's not. This guy just has a skin, genetic...
So, just getting back on track, I highly recommend that anyone watching at home go ahead and either pause the podcast or just pull up Patterson-Gimlin film, complete version, and watch it. We're starting from a shot of, I believe that's Bob Gimlin, riding on his horse, hauling Roger Patterson's horse next to him. And for those who don't know the backstory, Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin rented an old school, I don't think it was a Super 8, I think it was a 3.5 millimeter full film camera, and went out specifically looking for Bigfoot. I do not know if Bob Gimlin knew that they were looking for Bigfoot. I believe that he did, but it has been acknowledged since the film came out.
Right.
Keeping in mind, this was 50 years ago. This was 1968, I believe. So for the most part, there's nothing really to see. Right now we're getting some very nice, considering the quality, footage of canyons, a rock slide, I believe, is what we're looking at right now. All of the versions of the Patterson-Gimlin film that I've personally seen have been, copies of copies.
Yeah.
I don't believe the masters exist any longer.
Well, this one is a filming of it, is it not?
I'm not sure.
It's definitely a copy of it. It's without a doubt.
Because I believe it's been color corrected, color added.
Right.
It may have been color film originally. I'm not, again, sure. This is where my knowledge of kind of film and movie history breaks down a little bit. I'm not sure at what point the color film would have become financially feasible for them to have shot in. And again, these are all pretty shots, but there's very little of interest here. And I do find myself wondering a little bit why they included all this.
Yeah, all this riding the horse. I mean, it's not unattractive. I mean, it's
very pretty. It's 3 minutes and 30 seconds long, though, and I sincerely doubt that they only had 3 minutes and 30 seconds worth of film. So obviously, we're not looking at the entirety of what they shot.
But then he starts shaking the camera around now.
Here we go.
Oh, there
we
it is.
go.
Shake the camera around.
Yeah, he shakes the camera around. I believe the story here is that he had to drop his rifle and quickly get the camera up and get it, and he's riding up, and that's why it's shaking. And right at this point,
I just love that
turns around and looks back.
It's just she walks like, I mean, you look at it this way. We look at things like, real true stories that are, real stories of people who have been raised in the wilderness. They've gone, what we essentially call feral. And it's funny because they walk in a more animalistic way. So this is a creature that's supposed to have spent its entire time, its entire life, devoid of any kind of human civilization, and it's just strolling along like it just... You know what it probably did? Well, I guarantee you it just took a shit over there, and that's why it feels wonderful. It just took the best dump of its life and just cruised off.
I don't think it walks like a human.
That was the... Yeah. Right here they have like a little...
Yeah, a little comparison. I do. You want some more wine? I'm pretty sure there's more in the bottle.
I've been drinking William's wine for like a minute.
There's a little bit more. It's funny, I kind of expected me to be the one who drunk more, and I think that you've actually had a good bit more than I have.
Well, listen. To talk about Bigfoot, I gotta keep it classy.
I don't know.
Can we get the wine again? I need to put another plug for the wine. The Little Penguin, Southeastern Australia. Try their Merlot. We have a 2016 right now. It's 2 years old now. I don't know why older is better. I think it has to do with the fermentation process. I don't care. Stuff is delicious.
I mean, if you want to keep it classy, I can, pull out the scotch.
No, screw it. Wine. I'm all into the wine.
I don't know if I've got another bottle
Good
of
Italian
wine.
roots. No. This is enough. This is more than enough.
Do we take a pause and, drive out? No, neither of us should be driving.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So here's
Little Penguin wine. What was it?
I don't know.
Little Penguin wine. It's cheap.
It's
drinkable.
Cheap and drinkable. Fuck it.
Fuck it.
It's $10 Merlot.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah.
Yeah, clink or clack because plastic glasses.
Yeah, plastic glasses over here. Which I think really goes with the mood of Sasquatch. Really.
Well, listen, I know myself, and I know myself when I'm drinking. I should not have glassware.
No, I just mean the wine. And the fact that I love that I have a purple one.
I will get too worked up and just sling this fucker across. Well, hopefully I won't sling this fucker across the room because it's in my bedroom and I've got white walls. And not a lot of flying space.
I really want to take Liam to a bar and have him get really in an argument with somebody about cryptid. In Maryland, we have a lot of cryptid stuff that's very local to our area.
We have 2 cryptids.
Yeah, but there's so much of that.
With the silliest fucking names. Sorry, 3 cryptids, 2 of which have the silliest fucking name, and one of them is just kind of silly conceptually.
Name one that's silly named.
Snallygaster.
I don't think that's silly at all. That sounds like some Irishman came and...
Deweo. Also, one of those is really racist. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was the Snallygaster that specifically preys on black people.
Oh, that's a weird... That just sounds like somebody in the 19th century was just... We live in Maryland. We live in a southern state.
Between the
sounds like somebody was just attacking black people.
Between the name and the, desire to drink the blood of black women, it's pretty obvious what time period the Snallygaster started getting reported on.
Oh yeah, totally. Incidentally, there's no Native American There's no Native American stories of the Snallygaster.
Not that I'm aware of, anyway. I've been told that the name actually comes from like Pennsylvania Dutch speakers. But I don't
a truly horror
believe
of a
that.
language.
I don't believe that for 1 second. Who knows? Maybe it's true. I don't believe it. Not at all. So the Patterson-Gimlin film. So Roger Patterson, I believe, went to his grave swearing that the film was true.
So did what's his name with the alien dissection too.
I don't know. Roger Patterson has had his credibility called into question repeatedly over the years.
Who was he? What did he do?
I don't know a whole lot about him. He was, as far as I know, he was just some guy. He was into Bigfoot. From what I have heard about him, he was apparently a little bit of a shyster. Maybe even a con man.
Oh, really?
Let me see here. Let me see if I can find any information about good old Roger. Good old Roger. But I believe that in recent years, Bob Gimlin, the man that was with him, Roger Patterson, by all accounts, really did seem to be the mastermind, for lack of a better word, of the whole thing. And Bob Gimlin, I think, has come out in recent years and said that he's not really sure if he believes that it was real or not. I think he's said that he suspects that Roger Patterson may have staged the whole thing and kept him in the dark in order to make it more believable. So I just pulled up Roger Patterson on Wikipedia, and I don't think it gave me the right. Person.
It's probably some guy who patented like a vacuum.
Roger Patterson, November 29th, 1968. No, that's definitely not the right person.
No, when's the Patterson-Gimlin film? That's like 1950.
1968. February 12, 1991, was an American bass player, well known for his work in the Florida death metal band Atheist.
It's definitely that.
His playing style is characterized by its speed and complexity. Alex Webster, bassist with Cannibal Corpse, has acknowledged Patterson as a big influence. Described his playing on The Piece of Time as phenomenal. So there you go. Death metal pioneer, Bigfoot pioneer, Roger Patterson.
What a life, really.
Yeah.
What an inspiration.
Yeah. I don't want to spend a whole lot more time, though obviously I can just delete a whole bunch of shit and make people not realize that we've spent a whole lot of time with me looking for this. In May, June 1967, Patterson began filming a docudrama or pseudo-documentary about cowboys being led by an old miner and a wise Indian tracker on a hunt for Bigfoot. The storyline called for Patterson, his Indian guide, Gimlin in a wig. I have to piece it that way. Alright, and the cowboys to recall in flashbacks the stories of Fred Beck of the 1924 Ape Canyon incident. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's where a group of miners were supposedly attacked by a Bigfoot.
Ah, yes. Which is strange, because I've been attacked by a group of miners, and they're a lot tougher than you think, especially when they're a lot like, small dogs. Like, in a pack, they're terrifying, really.
Well, you just gotta kick them hard enough. We're talking about children, right?
Yeah,
miners, children. Yeah, okay.
Oh, no, were you talking about miners, like ones who mine?
Yes, people who mine.
I've never been attacked by people who mine. I have been attacked by minors, like people under the age of 18. 16 in some states.
Well, listen, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time looking for dirt on Roger Patterson right now.
Can you imagine if somebody employed you to do that, though?
Yeah, I mean, I'd take their money. Roger Patterson has had his credibility called into question multitude of times. Bob Gimlin, I think, I think Bob Gimlin is dead now, but at least at one point he was not 100% convinced any longer about the veracity of the film, or the events that they filmed anyway. So I have some real questions about its veracity, how true it is, how real it is. On the other hand, there are a lot of things about it that do seem to ring true. It really doesn't look like it walks like a person. If it's a costume, it's a really good fucking costume.
Yeah, I mean, for the time.
Even for the time. There were not that many people in the film industry in the late 1960s that were making really good quality hominid, ape, monster, or just monster costumes in general, things that really did
totally.
look
And I doubt
realistic.
that he went and like had somebody, he went and funded somebody to really and put together real effort into making a costume.
I've seen good quality copies of the film before. This was not one of them.
No.
But I've seen some good quality copies before, and you do see, you can see muscle movement under the fur, kind of like when a gorilla is moving, and you can see its muscles moving around under the fur. It's got some of that. The movement as it turns seems very natural to me. I'm no expert on simians, but it has had people who are look at it favorably. And then on the other hand, there have been stories about it being quote unquote debunked before that have turned out to be nonsense. Like, one in particular was that the guy who did the costumes for Planet of the Apes had done these. And he's...
Well, why would he? Why would he have been like, oh, yeah, I just got paid to do this movie with Charlton Heston. Which, by the way, great movie. You don't need to watch it, though. But...
Well, I mean,
but why would he go out and be like,
paid him,
to...
It just seems extremely unlikely. He's come right out and said, no, I did not make that.
Don't you think it's kind of ridiculous that he had to, though?
Well, a little bit, but you know what? He was the person that could have, essentially. And I think that Roger Patterson would not have been able to come up with hush money for him to do that work and then, completely disavow it for the rest of his life. And I don't believe that he could have paid anybody else enough money to not acknowledge that they had done this amazing piece of work. And I don't believe that he had the technical ability to do it again. Tell you what, let's take 5. You can take a leak and call your dad. I'll grab more alcohol, and we'll come back.
All right.
Sit tight, y'all. I'll probably be editing this out later, so you won't have to.
Oh, most definitely.
Check one, check, we're back. That was only like a 45-minute long gap and a terrifying couple of minutes where we thought we'd lost everything we recorded.
Yeah, that was pretty fun, though, to be honest with you.
So what were we talking about before we left? If we were real professionals, we would have gone back and listened to what we just... You know what? Why don't we do that real quick? And we're back again. Welcome back to Wasted Culture, the show where we're still not wearing any pants.
I mean, I'm not wearing pants.
You're not wearing pants. So when we left, we were talking about the Roger Patterson, Bob Gimlin film, and how I really don't know whether I believe that it's real or not.
I firmly think that it's fabricated in some way. I don't know how. Honestly, I haven't put too much thought into that film specifically.
I like the idea that Roger Patterson, this unscrupulous, shuckster, rented cameras to do a Bigfoot film that he was supposed to fake and then actually did manage to capture, videographic image of a Bigfoot. But when you get right down to it, it doesn't sound like the most likely thing in the world, does it?
I do think it's important to note, though, that that's like what people really go to when they think of like the modern Bigfoot conspiracies. They really go to, the film. They really go to that film.
So this seems like as good a time as any to launch into some of the, I guess we'll say, additional, more new age theories about Bigfoot.
Yeah, hit me with it.
So one of my personal favorites, we'll just jump right on into it, is the claim that Bigfoot is an extraterrestrial creature. The idea is that frequently with Bigfoot sightings there are also UFO reports in the area around the same time or at the same time. And so the idea is that one of the reasons why we almost never are able to find any physical proof of Bigfoot is because Bigfoot is in fact this kind of alien scout construct that gets deposited down on the planet, does some recon, and then gets sucked back up and taken away and never actually lives on the planet. And I love that. Not because I think it makes sense, but because I think it makes no fucking sense whatsoever.
So under that belief, what's the point of making him look like a big ape thing?
I don't really know, other than perhaps aliens, landed in one part of the world and discovered simian fauna it felt more well suited to traveling around rugged terrain than the human bioform was. And it wasn't until it started utilizing it in other parts of the world that it realized that not all parts of the world had gorillas, had monkeys, had large simians, or simians at all for that matter. I do think that it's somewhat interesting that there don't seem to be as many reports of Bigfoot in places that do actually have real-life simians. There are obviously some exceptions to that, like Orang Pendek, good lord, Indonesia does have orangutans, though not in the regions where Orang Pendek tends to be reported, from what I understand. At least according to Monster Quest.
Oh god. If you haven't seen the Monster Quest episode, it's 100% worth watching. They go into a long explanation about... But the one about Bigfoot is great. They go into a long explanation.
Which one? That show devolved into being almost entirely Bigfoot by, like, the third season.
The first one we watched, that must have been the first season. It was definitely the first season.
I think that was the Orang Pendek one, right?
Yeah.
Because I know we also watched... That was the...
It devolved so quickly into some pseudoscience. The Soviet one was great. The whole... They had this whole thing where they were trying to figure out if, you could truly breed humans with Bigfoot... And they kept showing this clip.
They were trying to breed humans with apes.
With apes to make Bigfoot by accident.
They were also wondering whether the Russian version of Bigfoot might have been a man-human hybrid, a natural form.
So, they kept showing this clip, though, throughout it that was like the worst CGI of a marching Soviet monkey army. Yeah. It was like Planet of the Apes. Yeah, like goose stepping around. And it was ridiculous, and they showed it like 14 times throughout the episode.
Well, when you spend that much money on a CGI graphics package, you're going to get your money's worth.
Yeah, no, totally. They were definitely doing the editing.
It's kind of like CNN having any kind of graphics package. They're just going to use that as many times as possible. Or Southern Florida news stations having hurricane graphics, or Pakistani news stations having drone bombing graphics. You're gonna use them.
Don Lemon is actually just CGI.
That wouldn't surprise me. The man has no personality whatsoever.
Yeah, it's not real.
It's very intelligent, though. Unlike
I liked watching him get drunk on New Year's.
certain tweeting jackass who had words to say about Mr. Lemon recently.
Really? I didn't even hear about that.
Oh, fuck it. Let's not even get into that. Anyway, so Bigfoot is an alien, obviously. Everything is, when you get right down to it. Everything is either Bigfoot or an alien, so it only makes sense that Bigfoot is an alien. Yeah, that's the basic logic right there. A is always B, so B is A, right? Yeah. Or C is always A or B, so therefore A and B are the same thing,
well, now you're losing me with this alpha, beta...
logic.
Reco logic. Is Don Lemon Bigfoot? Let's I'm gonna just take the quick time to Google Don Lemon CNN Bigfoot.
Yeah, turn that off. I gotta be honest, I am fairly agnostic on most of these questions and claims, including ones that are as ridiculous as is Bigfoot an alien. I do feel that I can say with some level of confidence that Don Lemon is not Bigfoot.
Are you sure?
For one thing, he's not that big.
Yeah, kind of a smaller guy.
Oh god, what are some other great theories about Bigfoot? Bigfoot is a lost tribe of humanity, or as a psychic species. That one is appealing to me because it does provide some explanation for why we've never found Bigfoot. Basically, that Bigfoot is smarter than we are, or that it is psychic in some way. There is the extra-dimensional being theory, which really is kind of the same as the alien theory, only I think it gives the Bigfoot a little more free will for themselves. I think those are kind of the biggest theories. I'm sure there are more out there, but those are the ones that I'm familiar with.
I love, it always comes back to this. Is it, otherworldly? Is it this? But really, my favorite is probably the post-Neanderthal. Bigfoot is just another, hominid that just developed alongside humans and just stayed out of sight. One group was trying to explain it by saying Bigfoot just lives underground and goes there to die. That's why we never find remains, because Bigfoot just digs holes. The plot, the holes they cover up, no pun intended. Well, a little pun intended. These holes in the stories they cover up pretty well, with the whole, it moves underground. I actually was taken back to Time Machine, the H.G. Wells Time Machine.
Oh, yeah.
Where they have the humans who develop above ground.
The Morlocks.
The Morlocks.
Yeah. The Morlocks and the
I think
Halflings or whatever the fuck they're called.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, we're approaching the 2-hour point, and obviously the final podcast is not going to end up being that long for so many reasons. But I think that probably would be a good time to start wrapping it up. And I think one of the better ways to wrap up would just be to kind of go up and down the country and rattle off all the names of Bigfoot and different types of Bigfoots and Bigfoot's reports that we've come across. So obviously there's the Bigfoot, Sasquatch,
and Northwest Pacific region.
Well, there's even just different names for them. There's the Bigfoot, there's the Sasquatch, Satchmo, not the trumpet player, for those classic Nickelodeon fans out there. God, what else? There's the Beast of Bray Road, Swamp Ape. Here's a new one that I learned this morning: boogers.
Oh, the boogers.
Yeah. This is completely, I've only heard one source say this, but I have heard one claim, exactly one claim, no at least, exactly one claim, that down south in the Alabama-Georgia region, one of the popular colloquial names for front porch floodlights is booger lights.
I wonder if they have a flood of Bigfoot population recently.
There's two guys that are kind of like southern Alabama, lower Alabama, Bigfoot hunters that have shown up at a bunch of different conference videos that I've seen. They are the originators of the term booger, as far as I am aware of it. I'm sure that other people came up with it before them. But, God, what else is there? There's the Beast of Seven Shoots. There is, Yeti, the Migo. There is,
not to be confused with the rap group.
Or with the Lovecraftian monster. I guess that just shows the kind of person I am. I never think of the rap group first.
I always think of the rap group first.
For me, it's Lovecraft.
It would be great if Sasquatch is bad and bougie.
Alright. I think that's the time to kill it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for joining us today. This has been Wasted Culture, brought to you by the Little Penguin Winery, specifically their fine Merlot, and Duplin's Carolina Red Sweet Muscadine. Thank you very much. I'm Liam.
I'm Sam.
And we're not wearing any pants.
Don
Have a good one.
Bye. Didn't have any more. The cap flew off when I went down, and I spilled it in the floor. A rat came out of his hiding place. He got that whiskey scent. He ran right up in, he got a little shot, and back to his holy wind. Back to his holy wind. Right back to his holy wind. He ran right up in, he got a little shot, and back to his holy wind. The rat came out of his hole again. He sidled up to the rum on the floor. Was a little bit shy, but he winked one eye, and he got him a little bit more. He didn't go by 'cause all that time, but he stayed by the puddle of gin. He says, doggone my Popeye's soul, I'm gonna get drunk again. He washed his face with his front feet, and on his hind legs sat, with a twisted smile and a half-closed eye, says, where's that doggone cat? And he didn't go back to his hole. He says, doggone my soul, I'm only a rat, but a doggone cat can't run me back to my hole. His little old eyes began to shine, and he laughed up more and more, and it made me glad that I had stumbled and spilled it on the floor. But soon the puddle of rum was gone, and there wasn't any more gin. The little old rat was a-having a time when the old tomcat came in. The cat made a pass and the rat made a dash, as bold as faded then. The cat jumped over and the rat got sober and back to his hole again.